about on the topics issues of environmental sustainability and the intelligence of artificial intelligence. And our chief speaker today will be distinguished Prof. Douglas Anele from the Department of Philosophy, and our special guest, Reverend
Father
Father
Benson Peter Irabo.
and
Dr. Matthew Dodo.
Dr. Matthew Todo. And you? And you?
Edna Benson.
Edna Benson. And our covenant,
Convener,
our
Dr. Pascal
covenant,
Aneke.
Dr. Pascal Aneke. And
Asian.
so, Prof, sir, the ground is open for.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to start with artificial intelligence. It's one of the trending topics in the contemporary period, and it is very controversial as well. When we say artificial intelligence, we are talking about systems created by human beings that mimic what are characterized as intelligent behavior in humans. Every book in psychology and related fields will tell you that intelligence is a very difficult concept to define. But one of the characteristics of intelligent behavior is goal identification and taking measures to reach that goal successfully. Another is also the capacity to act in a manner that shows rationality. For me, intelligence is not restricted to human beings. As you move up the evolutionary ladder, living organisms show different levels of intelligence. It's only that in the case of Homo sapiens, it reaches its highest level, far beyond what our closest cousins in the animal kingdom, the primates, can attain. And one of the fundamental backbones of human intelligence is language. And of course, we know that animals also have some level of linguistic capacity. But no animal approaches the level of sophistication, complexity, and abstract nature of human language. The quest to produce intelligent entities, machines, other than the ones produced by nature, can be traced back to antiquity. However, it was the philosopher Gottfried Leibniz that improved on the abacus calculus that was discovered even during the time of the ancient Egyptians. And eventually, scholars like Charles Babbage, John von Neumann, and others were now making computing systems that laid the foundation for what we call artificial intelligence today. And of course, the word artificial means, in this context, man-made. The father of computing in contemporary times is usually referred to as, is usually credited to the British mathematician and philosopher Alan Turing, who in 1950 wrote a defining article called The Imitation Game. In fact, the achievement of von Neumann, Alan Turing, enabled the Allies during the Second World War to decode the German encryption, German code entitled Enigma, which allowed the Allies to predict some of the moves made by Nazi Germany during the Second War. Now, you see, like every technology, students of philosophy of technology, like my humble self, know that once you solve a problem with technology, it also creates unexpected problems, which means that whatever problems human beings intended to solve with artificial intelligence technology is bound to create unexpected problems. Right now, in fact, I've forgotten the name of the gentleman who is one of the patron saints of contemporary AI technology. The gentleman just suddenly withdrew, say he's no longer participating. Why? Because he could foresee the danger. In fact, according to him, the potentials of artificial intelligence is such that they will become more intelligent than their human creators. The moment the systems reaches a level of sophistication and complexity, they will now override the programming by human beings. And that is also in tune with the movement of evolution. A lot of those who criticize evolution don't even know next to nothing about it. Evolutionary development turns up organisms, systems, biological systems that cannot be predicted even from their origins. The same thing with artificial intelligence. The fear is that it will reach a certain level of sophistication that it will no longer stay within the programmed limits by its creators. And it might turn into Frankenstein monsters. So the point is that in order to use adequately and maximize the benefits of artificial intelligence, there must be very strong regulations that will limit the areas where artificial intelligence should not be applied. And I can tell you at the drop of a hat that one of those areas is in the military. By the time you have artificial intelligence soldiers, they are already there. I mean, AI usage in military technology. But by the time it gets to the next level of sophistication, you may discover that those controlling the military equipment powered by AI may give instruction to the machine and the machine will override it. And supposing again, these machines develop some kind of signaling system that is analog to human language by which they can communicate amongst themselves over and beyond what is programmed in them. You may now discover that human beings may become slaves to the creations of their own hands. In my view, artificial intelligence should apply especially to those jobs that are too repetitive, that are boring, and then that are risky. For example, in mining operations, instead of human beings going deep down the crust of the earth to look for all those important materials, we can send machines so that even if the mines cave in, it is not human beings that will be dead. It will be just ordinary machine. Because one thing people forget is that every human life is totally irreplaceable. That takes me to the issue of environment. We're talking about environmental sustainability. And my friend here, Dr. Rabo, was trying to give a Christian glove to it. I want to remind all those who are approaching the environmental issue from the religious angle, particularly the Abrahamic religion, that their case is fundamentally flawed because inherent in Abrahamic religion is a God that is angry, that can destroy his own creation. In fact, if you read the Bible diligently, and by implication, the Quran and the Torah, there is no force that will be more destructive than God Himself or itself. So, for those who believe in God as presented in these religions, you cannot make a sound case. Yes, you can pick and choose version, passages in the Bible and Quran and Torah that talk about living in harmony with the environment. But the fundamental being that you worship is the most destructive human beings have invented. And so you can handle a being that says, go here into the world, multiply and subdue and dominate. Those are very strong words, Reverend Father. Subdue and dominate. You are not even leaving any room for the entity you are subduing and dominate. It's a very simple reason for that. The God of all these religions is like a big human being, writ large, have human intentions, human emotions, so we cannot transcend the entities that created it. I want to do what we call a logic conversion. Instead of God creating man in his own image, man created God in his own image. And there's abundant evidence for that. Now, how do I link environment to artificial intelligence? Clearly, the idea that human beings are separate from nature is a very horrible fallacy. Human beings can never be separated from nature because human beings are products of nature. And one of the failures of religion is to give the impression that human beings are special creations of God that have right of dominion over everything under the sun. It cannot be correct. Human beings emerge like every other living entities through the forces of evolution. And man cannot transcend nature because man is a product of nature. Scientists will tell you that all the atoms in our bodies were forged at the center of stars that have exploded. There's nothing in human that makes us up is not reducible to those elements and entities that are forged in the centers of stars. So we owe ourselves the duty to preserve the environment. And how can we use AI to do that? AI, for example, can handle large data to predict the weather, to predict seismic activities, particularly earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, require large volumes of data. And artificial intelligence can help us to do that. Now, so if we deploy artificial intelligence to the question for, or to the quest for environmental sustainability, you can see that human beings can make immense progress in that. Why? Because if we deploy the potentials of AI into the analysis and prediction of the weather, prediction of earthquakes, prediction of volcanic eruptions, and all these natural events that are not at the moment completely predictable with available technology. It will save the world from serious disaster. It will say, look at the tsunami that happened after the earthquake that occurred around that Southeast Asia in 2004. Over a quarter of a million people perished. But if we have a well organized intelligence system that could have predicted the occurrence of these disastrous events on time, at least a lot of lives would have been saved. So it is important that whenever we are discussing environmental sustainability, we also need to see how the resources of artificial intelligence can be marshaled to help human beings not only to predict, but also to make sure that we take measures on time to alleviate the sufferings that may be caused by all these natural disasters. Finally, I want to say this about the natural environment. People have not stressed this fact enough. As long as we don't have strong population policies that will drastically reduce the rate at which human beings are procreating. My PhD student who just graduated, Dr. Pascal, was talking about infertility. Now, my argument is very, very simple. We are about 8 billion human beings in this planet. As long as we keep increasing, we will continue to cut down forests to build houses, to build hospitals, to build schools, to build roads, to build all the infrastructure that make life worth living for human beings in this day and age. I believe that no sensible environmental sustainability policy will work without taking interest, aside from AI that I mentioned, But with the issue of population growth, population is putting pressure on the fragile resources of the earth. And no matter how technologically savvy we become, if we continue to increase in this rate at which we are increasing, see, Thomas Malthus theory will come in and nature will begin to exact its own revenge. But if we plan our population in such a way that it is in synchronization, in such a way that it is in consilience with the environment, you can be sure that indeed we will not make this planet uninhabitable for future generations. Remember, we are these trustees. That's why if you talk about environmental sustainability, we must transcend the narrow confines of religious superstition and move into real philosophical templates like the one provided by Paul Taylor, who talked about biocentric egalitarianism, and all living things have a right to be here. And I agree with it, irrespective of philosophical and theoretical problems that it gives rise. For me, as long as you have evolved in this planet, whether you are a bacteria or whether you are a virus, or you have a right to be here. And therefore, even though we will need to keep some of those dangerous viruses and bacteria and parasites in check, my point is very, very simple. Human beings have a duty as the most intelligent creature on this planet, except when AI supersedes our own intelligence. Human beings must see the environment, must see the planet from the perspective of trusteeship. We must be the shepherds of the planet. We must also watch out economic systems. I keep telling people this idea of continuous growth, continuous economic development, it is a false paradigm. It can never help this planet to grow in terms of environmental sustainability. Why? Because the capitalist, what matters to him or her is profit. Environment comes a distant second. So we must also change our economic paradigm in order to take care of the environment. And then finally now, please, I think these things we should begin to incorporate it in educational institutions, at homes, in schools, right from get-go. At home, people are not looking at the impact of the family in all these things. The family is the first socializing unit of a human being. If parents, guardians, elders begin to inculcate in children the fact that that bush is very important to our own lives, the fact that that stream, the fact that that cave, the fact that those natural formations are necessary for our well-being as human beings, until we begin to incorporate environmental sustainability principles in children, and then also marshal the resources of artificial intelligence in the service of a sustainable environment. We should be waiting for Armageddon by the way we are going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erudite and Cerebral Prof. Professor of Philosophy, a great Odogu in the academics. Thank you for establishing the linkage, this keynote that touches the whole area of our discussion. The connect now, see the linkage between artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability. They will see that the need to work towards biodiversity conservation. You have to let live in order to live. What I get there. You cannot live alone in this world.
No.
In order, the same spiritual life extends all beings in nature. So we are sharing that common brotherhood. They mentioned bicentric egalitarianism, also say ecocentric egalitarianism, this aspect. So, Prof, when you were talking about the Google guru that resigned, the godfather of AI, I think that's Geoffrey Hinton. It was a fear, out of growing fear that AI was trying to. You had fear about responsible use and responsible deployment of AI systems.
Yes.
So he decided to, because he was going out of what he thought. And when we look at what VR Potter said in 1971, but when he established bioethics as a bridge to the future, he's talking about that humanity is desperately in need of wisdom on how to use knowledge. Because humanity was acquiring knowledge that was about surpassing, so to speak, the wisdom. And when the knowledge you have surpasses the wisdom to manage it, that's heads to dangerous knowledge. The AI was heading towards that direction. But withdrawing is not the solution, I think. It should be able to see how to curtail that. It's not withdrawing. The people that he trained will also continue the development of AI. So what I'm saying, let's throw the floor open for questions, clarification, and all this, so that we all participate and not just be
Sure,
silent
sure.
spectators.
But before you comment, please. See, withdrawal may not be the solution, but it sends a strong message that if one of the patron sense of this technology can take this move, it will make some people to begin to reflect. There's no single solution, of course. But when a key figure in that technology is saying this, it's just like when Albert Einstein, after the atomic bomb was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, he regretted. Even he said he would have preferred to be a locksmith than being a physicist. He did not stop the development. In fact, the nuclear atomic bombs they have now is about 1,000 times more powerful than the one they dropped in 1945. But still, there are scientists and lay people who were moved by that remark of about Einstein to begin to question why should human beings delve into this dangerous technology. So I agree with you, it's not necessarily the solution, but it can send a strong signal that there may be danger ahead.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. Of course, Martin Heidegger had warned us against the use of technology, even if it's at the service of man. I thank you so much for the synergy, the connection you made between artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability, the way you connected it. I'm sure I never thought about it before. Thank you very much. I have actually gained a lot today. And then you talked about birth control in a way affecting the environment too much, or kind of maybe we have to have a birth control because of population help, population explosion. But you know, of course, I wouldn't want us to go into that. Otherwise, we will not live here when it comes to control of population. And by the time you begin to, you know, enact a kind of law to say, okay, we are going to contribute into many other things, such as, you know, abortion, which in the religious balance we are against. I don't know whether it's in line with what you believe.
See,
You know.
okay, but the point remains that, see, when you say population control, there are many ways of controlling population. For example, if you have look at what they did in China, even though they went a little bit overboard,
But yes.
when the youth population began to decline, they relaxed it. So they have achieved what they wanted to achieve. So they said that India is now the most populous country in the world. See, there is no way you can make omelette without breaking an egg. You can incentivize people having one or two children. By saying, okay, if you have one child or two children, we'll train the child to the university level. If you have beyond three, you're on your own. You talk about abortion, there are always good reasons for having an abortion. Say, for example, if you're a victim of rape, and it was found out that the child you are carrying has inherited AIDS from the idiot who did the raping. You know, see, the fact of the matter is that that's why I said when you talk about environmental sustainability and all that, you must go beyond religion. The religions you have in this world today were formulated more than a millennia ago when the problems of the world are different. When scientific knowledge of the world is not what it is today. So we must refrain. That is also why that accounts for the obsolescence of religion. It does not move with the progress of civilization. You know, they'll tell you, oh, what is written in the Quran, what is written in the Bible, no one should move, it's inerrant and all that. Who says that? The world we are living in is a very dynamic world, and we must adapt. Although I can also tell you for free that most of those religious literature contain a lot of contradictions. And as a logician, I know that for a contradiction, anything follows. That's why you can reinterpret and overinterpret and misinterpret and still adapt to what they are saying. But I get it. What I'm saying is not easy.
I know. All right. Okay. No problem. The final question has to do with how will you now relate artificial intelligence (AI) to in the academic sector? Even though we are looking at it from maybe environmental sustainability, These days now, assignments are given to students. They go on AI,
Yes.
check everything. So I want to just throw light a little. Even though
See, it's a very dangerous thing. You see, even me as a person, because sometimes some of these issues you approach it from your own personal experience. I hardly give assignments. All the students, all of you here are my students. I prefer test. See, the truth of the matter is that AI makes it convenient for you. But do you know what you are losing? You are losing cognitive resilience and cognitive wisdom. Because that time you are thinking, grappling with the problem, even if you don't solve that problem, the effort in thinking about it can open up new vistas and perspectives to look at the issue. You know, the other day I saw my daughter with calculator. I said, what's this? He said, they use calculator in school. I said, really? Then you can't even do long division on your own. So the truth of the matter, like I said, is this. In Sweden today, as we speak, they are actually de-emphasizing this gadget thing. And they are going to the yeah, books. They are investing hundreds of millions of euros to encourage students to go back to traditional books for a very simple reason. See, by the time you look at all these gadgets and they make solutions very easy and simple for you, you are losing what I call intellectual resilience. It's just like a parent try working extra hard. I don't want my children to go through what I went through. That's a very stupid thing to say, because you went through is part of what made you who you are. You can absorb the vicissitudes of life. Life will throw issues at you. If you're not prepared, if you're not a resilient person, you will break down. So I abhor the encroachment of all this chat GPT, DeepSeek into the educational system. And I will encourage my department, the University of Lagos, all educational institutions to take measures to stop it. And one way to stop it is very simple. Emphasize physical exam and test over and above go and write assignment. Because there's no way you can stop it as long as you allow people to go and do assignment. You can't stop it. You cannot.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. But when you stop the order of assignment, the examination is also, the project they write.
That is why we have defense.
Yeah.
If you go and copy GPT, no problem. When you are in my panel and I ask you questions, you will know, man.
And when you are making relevant to Sweden, you are the issue of libraries without books. That is what it is today. Then when
No, they are now going back.
Yeah,
They are
the issue of
going
use of calculator. I remember when we were in the secondary school, we used log table.
Yeah, log reading.
Four figure table. But today,
Log reading.
everything calculated. If now they allow even scientific calculators in exams.
Yes.
Then we have to enter with our log table. All those formulas you memorize. You can know how to do
Exactly.
normative formula, all those stuff. But now calculator does it. And then that is guys outsourcing what we use our students, we outsource it to machine.
So a machine, yes.
It is replacing him, and then we cannot go far. When machines fail, there's somebody that depends on GPS to locate your house. When the GPS network fails, you might not be able to locate your house
The house,
when
exactly.
you are driving. So it's a problem.
So the
Not like
issue
us
is
say
to
that
make
when you
sure.
use technology to solve a problem, it creates an unintended problem.
Yes, we know, but the point is that you must be mentally alert and be wise to know when the gadget that is with you is going beyond its productive use. Because whether you like it or not, you are the end in yourself, not the machine. So we need to, those things should be like, let me use the analogy of electricity supply in Nigeria. You can see the anomaly that NEPA, solar, all these other means have become the main sources of supply of electricity in homes, when the national supply should be the main thing. So you see that the dog is being wagged by the tail. Instead of the dog wagging the tail is wagging the dog. So the point remains that, you see, nobody can decree technology out of humanity. It's not. Technology is part of we as humans. Because right from when we evolved from the primate family and became Homo sapiens, we also became Homo faber. In other words, two-making animal. So, but if we are not wise, I like that usage of that word, wise. In other words, if we are not philosophically astute, not in theory only, but in practice, technology will end up leading us to Armageddon. I use that word.
So, Prof, I have a question.
Ask it.
AI technology as a whole over time has affected the environment. For every new development that comes, there have been drastic effects in the environment. Now AI coming, AI needs power to handle
Yes,
big
electricity,
data.
yeah.
Yes, electricity. Generating that electricity also affects the environment, as well as the disadvantages of AI falling into the wrong hands. We said yes, we are to have regulations, but at the end of the day, there will always be bad people, regardless of regulations in place.
Correct.
Those bad people will use that AI in wrong
To do
means.
bad things.
So my question to you now is, would you rather say let AI stop now? Let the development or the advancement of AI stop now? Because looking at it, the advancement of technology as a whole has affected the environment. So should there be a stop now?
No, the reason is very simple. It's just like prohibition of alcohol. People go underground and do it. So what should happen is that advocates, wise people who can see the danger in what I may call technological rascality, technology going beyond the bounds of reason, should continue to make the advocacy, should continue to make the point, and then strict enforcement of regulation. Regulation cannot totally eradicate it, but it's better to minimize the danger than to say stop. You can't stop the progress of human knowledge. You cannot. If you stop it, there are people who are inside the forest, who are inside the bunker, who are inside all kinds of building areas doing it, and you cannot. So, what is required is transparency, accountability, and strict enforcement and adaptation. It's just like
That's why
you cannot
ethical
say people should
guidelines.
not use electronic means of money transfer. There are trillions of fraud happening all over the world. But then also there are better regulations, there are better ways of tracking, these illicit transactions using. So the important thing is that we cannot allow the negative to overwhelm the positive. AI is a very good tool if properly managed. So it's that proper management that is key. But to say stop it, it's an exercise in futility. You cannot stop it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Douglas Anile, for the intelligible conversation. I believe everybody in this table have been able to extract one or two from all that we have been discussing. So in our next session, we'll be able to move on further.
Thank you, Prof, for this insightful presentation.
Thank you very much. I am happy to be here actually.